Okay, so if you're managing corporate logistics, maybe dealing with talent relocation or just trying to secure long-term accommodations for your people, especially across, high demand places like the Asia Pacific region, the complexity. It's not just spreadsheets and budgets. It is a dense fog of old assumptions. Welcome back to the deep dive. This is where we take all that complex source material articles, research on corporate logistics, and we just distill it down to the most critical, actionable insights for you.
And our mission in this deep dive is, well, surgical. We are here to cut through that fog. We've seen it time and time again, these persistent, just outdated myths that sabotage budgets,
The
timelines.
ones that really hurt.
Exactly. We're talking about misconceptions about vetting partners, calculating the real cost, or even just adopting modern tech. I mean, we are trying to find something like a serviced office or a long-term apartment in Singapore or Tokyo. You just can't afford guesswork. So we're going to clear up 6 of these major myths that, frankly, cost companies millions and employees their sanity.
We've organized this into 3 big zones. First up is the trust barrier, how to properly vet a relocation partner. Second, we have the cost trap, where we really challenge that idea that doing it yourself is always cheaper.
Spoiler alert,
Mm.
it's not.
And finally, the efficiency edge. This is about planning and modern systems and how they can turn chaos into a real corporate advantage. Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start with that trust barrier. So myth number 1 we need to just demolish is this idea that all moving companies basically offer the same service. You just pick the cheapest one,
Yeah,
right?
that's so.
If you're approaching corporate relocation with a lowest bid mindset, you've already lost. You really have. The misconception there is so profound. People assume these services are fungible commodities. They're absolutely not. The difference between a cheap quote and a responsible corporate partner is staggering. It all starts with understanding the service spectrum.
And the sources really make that clear. The kind of move you're doing dictates the specialist you need. It's not one size fits all at all. Not at all. Think about it in terms of involvement. At the very top end, you've got your full service movals.
Okay.
These are essential for, say, a high-level executive move. They handle everything. Packing fragile corporate art, setting up the new home office, minimal client involvement, maximal cost. But it's crucial if that employee needs zero distraction. Then you move down to labor-only movers. This might be good for a smaller team move, where the company, handles packing sensitive documents internally, but they just need the muscle in the truck,
Right, the heavy lifting.
the heavy lifting. And then, critically, for anything international, like corporate relocation housing in Asia, you have to have a long-distance mover. This is the company that is licensed and specifically equipped to handle customs, cross-border paperwork, all that logistical fun.
What about those really specific requirements? I'm thinking, a company is moving unique R&D equipment or maybe some rare antiques from the CEO's office.
That's a great point. That's where specialty movers come in. If you're relocating a lab or a priceless piece of art, you need certified expertise. You need special crating, non-standard
Yeah.
insurance. Your average long-distance mover just doesn't provide that. So tailoring the vendor to the asset is a major insight here.
That brings up the whole issue of trust and verification. You mentioned licensing a second ago. A lot of the sources talk about checking the DOT number or the BBB, which is great for the US. But what's the non-negotiable sign of reputability for a global move, especially into the Asia-Pacific market?
That's a vital distinction to make. For international moves, you have to pivot from those regional bureaus to industry-wide compliance, the non-negotiable sign. It's got to be verification of their global certifications and, crucially, their liability insurance.
So what does that look like in practice?
You need to confirm they're members of recognized international organizations, like FIDI, for example. A FIDI certification, that signals they stick to a universal quality standard, and that is far more relevant than a US-based DOT number when you're crossing the Pacific.
Okay, that leads us right into myth number 6. This cynical belief that all moving professionals are, inherently untrustworthy. We've all read the horror stories online.
And that pessimism is so dangerous. It paralyzes decision-making. Trust isn't something you just find, it's earned. It's earned through verification.
How so?
You look for consistency in their public feedback across multiple platforms. It's not about one glowing review, but hundreds that reliably praise things like punctuality, clear communication, careful handling. But for a corporation, more important than consumer reviews is their liability structure.
Liability is the key. So what's the single most protective step a company can take to make sure their corporate assets are covered? especially when they might be shipping things months before an employee even gets their housing in Asia.
Good contract. The contract has to be flawless. It is an absolute necessity to have a detailed, written, and legally reviewed contract.
Not just a basic estimate.
No. This document has to define every single service, establish guaranteed delivery windows, which is so important for corporate efficiency, and it has to outline the specific claims process. And, maybe most importantly, detail the liability for storage in transit.
Ah, so if it's sitting in a warehouse somewhere.
Exactly. If that shipment is going into temporary corporate storage before it gets to the service department, who is liable? Under which insurance policy? What are the security protocols? If a vendor won't give you that level of detail, you walk away. Simple as that.
All right, let's switch gears from verification to value. We're moving into the cost trap, and this is myth number 3. The fallacy that a DIY move always saves money. I mean, the upfront price of a rental truck is obviously lower, so where's the trap?
The trap is hiding in opportunity cost and unrecognized liability. The biggest financial blind spot for corporations is valuing their employees' time.
I see where you're going with this.
Think about it. If a software engineer or a regional manager spends 2 full days packing and moving instead of closing a deal or managing a project, the company hasn't saved money. It has lost far more in potential income. That's the real cost of DIY.
That's a very sharp way to reframe it. And we do tend to forget the logistics involved. It's not just renting a truck and buying some gas.
Exactly. And when you factor in an international move, the liability just explodes. Let's say you try to manage customs paperwork yourself for a shipment into, I don't know, Japan. You fill out one declaration incorrectly.
That container is not moving.
The container is stalled.
Okay.
And you are now paying demurrage fees, sometimes thousands of dollars a day, which completely eclipses the cost of hiring a professional who handles customs brokerage as part of their fee. The hidden costs are fees, delays, and huge liability exposure.
So the professional quote, even though it's higher up front, it's actually buying you efficiency, specialized paperwork management, and a massive reduction in corporate risk.
It shifts the risk. Professionals provide speed, the right equipment to prevent damage, and they manage all those bureaucratic friction points that are guaranteed to pop up. They make sure the items arrive smoothly at the extended stay hotel or the service department, which lets the employee stay productive.
That sets us up perfectly for myth number 4. The idea that decluttering before a corporate move is, an unnecessary use of time. Just pack it all up.
That mindset is literally throwing money away.
Yeah.
We have seen companies pay thousands of dollars in freight fees, in duties, in volume charges to ship items they haven't used in a decade.
The math is just so direct. Moving companies charge by weight or volume. So if you pay to ship that old stationary bike from the office gym or those 5-year-old marketing flyers, you're paying freight and labor to move junk.
And beyond the immediate financial cost, think about the practical side of it, especially for corporate housing in Asia. Service departments, even the premium ones, they are typically smaller, more curated than a big house in the West.
Good point.
So why would you pay a premium to ship and then store items that just clutter up a streamlined, functional apartment?
Yeah.
Decluttering isn't just cost-saving. It is a critical step in preparing for a successful, intentional, fresh start. It ensures the employee has a clear, productive space from day one.
Here's where it gets really interesting. This is where we connect operations with tech and planning the efficiency edge. Let's tackle myth number 2. This deeply ingrained idea that moving is just inherently stressful and chaotic. We sort of accept that chaos as part of the deal.
We have to retire that notion. Stress is a symptom of poor planning. It is not an unavoidable part of relocation. Good planning turns that potential chaos into a predictable, structured project. And that's essential when you're coordinating parts across different continents.
So for our listener who's managing these logistics, what does that structure even look like? What's the high-level roadmap?
It's all about staged execution. You have to start 6 to 8 weeks out. This is your sorting phase. Deciding what stays, what goes, applying for visas, confirming the lease start date for the corporate housing. If you wait, you risk delays.
Okay, 6 to 8 weeks. What's next?
The next stage is 2 to 4 weeks out. This is when you're confirming all the details with your mover, packing non-essentials, and coordinating the address change. Think about international payroll, benefits providers, things like that.
Right, the nitty-gritty.
And then the final stage, 1 week out, is for packing that essentials box and handling the final payment confirmations. Sticking to that timeline gives you control.
So when a company relies on this kind of deep planning and they use vetted professionals, what's the ultimate organizational benefit?
It's strategic time reclamation. When the logistics are managed, the employee isn't stressed about boxes. They're focused on the business reason they were moved. On operations, integration, market entry, it frees up your high-value people to do high-value work.
Now for the tech-focused myth, number 5. The idea that modern relocation software, like a good CRM, is too complex or too expensive for, mid-sized companies. People picture these massive, clunky legacy systems.
That perception is so outdated. It's years out of date. Modern CRM tools for relocation are cloud-based, they're subscription-friendly, and they are highly intuitive. We're talking about systems that integrate everything, quote, generation, inventory, client communication, into a single place.
And accessible from anywhere, I imagine?
Accessible via mobile, designed for remote teams,
Mhm.
and the setup time, we're talking hours, not months. The barrier to entry for this kind of software has completely collapsed.
Okay, so if the complexity barrier is gone, let's talk about the tangible ROI. Why is this software not just a nice to have? Why is it a crucial driver of profit?
The ROI comes from error reduction and speed. Just think about the cost of one scheduling error. A mover shows up on the wrong day, or a lease for a service department is booked for the wrong month. That cascades into hotel costs, storage fees, and a very frustrated employee.
A huge headache.
A good CRM automates those scheduling checks. It makes sure inventory lists match the quote details. It provides real-time tracking. It dramatically reduces those expensive human error-driven mistakes.
And specifically for corporate moves in Asia, where you have multiple vendors, time zones, maybe even different languages, how does centralized data help there?
It becomes the operational hub. I mean, think about the coordination. You've got the international mover, the customs broker in Singapore, and the service department vendor. Without software, you're relying on email chains and spreadsheets. Things get dropped.
All the time.
The software centralizes everything. The client's contact info, the complete inventory, the move-in date, every payment, every communication log. It's a single source of truth that prevents the miscommunications that derail these moves.
So ignoring these advancements isn't just inefficient, it's really a choice to operate at a competitive disadvantage.
Precisely. In fast-paced markets like the Asia-Pacific, efficiency is currency. The companies that embrace this kind of intuitive software are just faster, more accurate, and more reliable for their relocating talent.
That brings us to our wrap-up. We've covered a whole spectrum of these myths, from the due diligence you need for vetting partners to the efficiency gains from structured planning and modern software.
It seems like success in corporate relocation really hinges on three things. Preparation sticking to that 6 to 8 week timeline, verification insisting on global certifications and those detailed contracts, and technology embracing these modern centralized CRM tools.
So what does this all mean?
We've established that adopting modern relocation software is critical for efficiency, for financial ROI, for the hard logistics of it all, especially when you're securing corporate housing and service departments in far-flung locations. But here's a final thought for you to mull over. How much hidden value does your organization assign to the employee experience of a smooth move? Is the efficiency you gain from streamlined software purely about logistics costs? Or does minimizing the stress felt by that relocating professional also function as one of your most crucial retention tools for top talent? That organized, stress-free transition, facilitated by good planning and smart tech. That might be the silent competitive edge you need to retain your most valuable people.